All right, good evening. Episode 2 of Humbled Insights podcast. I'm Matt Minier, and I got my co-host here with me, Pedro Hardy. Pedro, how you doing? We have a special guest for you today. Al Weiland is in the house. He is with Wall to Wall Home Inspections. Al is a seasoned home inspector in the real estate industry. He's also got quite a background that leads to what I would say a very thorough and experienced and guided inspector. And he'll tell about his story here today as we go through things together. So Al, how you doing tonight? What's going on?
I'm doing fine, thank you. And thanks for having me, guys.
Hey, you're welcome. Thanks for taking the time to join us today. So before we do dive into the podcast here and go through inspections and everything that relates to it, I know that you're a big camper, Al. So
I am.
any trips lately? Is this about the time of year where you start wrapping things up? What's next and
Well,
or what has it been?
we usually go every 2 weeks. So we've been doing that throughout the summer. A couple weeks back, we finished up. Then we ended up in Kentucky for a couple days, and then we were supposed to go this weekend again, but actually we're taking a time out and we're heading to Belize
Ooh,
for
All right.
32 days.
So some warmer camping.
Yeah, we're not taking a
32
camper though.
days?
We're going for 32 days. Yep. I'm taking some time off and gonna go see some things and you know, so yeah, we're excited. We leave next Tuesday, in fact, and we'll be back on the 22nd November. So yeah, kind of the year-end thing, and so yeah, it'll be cool.
32 days. He said, "Babe, I'm gonna give you a month and a day." That's a baller right there.
That's awesome.
Yeah, yeah, it'll be fun.
What centered on Belize? How did you guys come up with that for?
Just starting to look around. As you said, I am a seasoned inspector, so I am getting towards that age of retirement. So I'm starting to look around where to retire to, whether it be, here in the United States or around the world, or we might do a combination of things. We're looking at Belize, we're looking at Thailand, we're looking at Panama. So we're kind of looking at a bunch of different areas. So we're gonna do some trips and see what it's like out there.
Wow.
Good for you guys.
Yeah.
And
That's called
enjoy that.
hard work paying off right there.
Yeah.
Isn't it? Yeah. Well, I've been doing inspections for 23 years. So yeah.
Michael Jordan, 23, baby.
Yeah.
So with that 23 years in the inspection business, Al, tell us how you got started and let's go to the beginning where you had made a note to us that your father had owned a roofing company. I
Yeah.
think probably segued into this whole
Yeah.
thing. So
I started with him when I was real young, like 11 years old. I was doing the cleanup kind of stuff. And so as I became a teenager, obviously my dad was running this business part-time, so he had a full-time job. So what ended up happening was my brother and I ended up working the business full-time for a number of years. And I mean, and then as I got older, I was even doing it part-time with him as I was doing my other stuff because in the 80s, I had a remodeling company for a number of years. And then in the 90s, we got into new construction. Started with Kingsway Homes and did that for a bunch. I started with Kingsway and I became their assistant sales manager. And so I was teaching other people how to sell the houses and design them and things like that. Then five of us left from there and started Stonegate Homes. And this was back in the mid 90s. First year we were in business, we did 38 houses in the first year we were in business. I talk about the Wild West of building houses. I mean, that was fun. That was fun.
Whew.
And unfortunately, that business took a dive. I mean, we went for 5 years. The company went longer, but I left after 5 years. That industry took a real dive at the end of the 90s. I mean, you couldn't even sell a model house, much less find somebody to build, to buy a house to build for. So there was a change that needed to be made, and with all my background and everything, I figured home inspections would be a natural fit. And so I jumped into that and started the company in 2001, and then been doing it ever since. So yeah.
Wow, that man, that oh,
Yeah.
38. Oh
Yeah.
man.
It was wild times. It was really wild times, but it was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun.
How so 38, so what was the average time to build a home?
Well, it was it roughly took around 6, 7 months to build a house. So we had 38 under construction in the first year.
Whew.
Yeah.
Do you have any operational struggles with that?
Oh yeah. There was a huge learning curve.
What
So
what would
yeah.
you,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
what would you tell someone, because everybody thinks new construction is the way to go. I always tell my clients, like for me personally, I'd rather buy a pre-existing home because I know everything's settled, I know everything's in there, right? So from your experience from those 38 homes, like I'm pretty sure you're building it to the top of the best, right? The best quality possible.
Yeah.
Now you've been a home inspector for so long. Are you the type of person that's like, I want to buy new build, or are you gonna be the one like me, like, hey, I love pre-existing homes? How do you, which one are you?
I'd love to be back in new construction. I mean, that
Mm,
is my actually I was designing houses as well as selling houses. So that was kind of the crux with Kingsway. In the end, I stepped on some toes with Bill Baseman, the owner of Kingsway, because I was doing my own drawings on vellum, and I was doing my own costing and that kind of stuff, which we wanted the all these salespeople to do their own costing, but drawing the houses was something they really didn't want you to do, but I was doing it anyhow. And Bill Bays was the one that did all the custom, houses. So the last one I designed was well, it was a house they had on paper. They never built it. And then it was like 2,400 square feet. I blew the house up like to 6,000 square feet, totally bricked the thing and did all this stuff. And it became a custom plan in the end. And Bill just blew his gasket on me, essentially, because, that was his jam. And so then, well, the sales manager said, "Hey, they don't want you in sales anymore, but we'll make you the assistant sales manager," which I don't know if that was a wise choice or not, but you know. So then I was teaching other people how to do it. So
not a
that
good
was
look on their part.
yeah. So hey, I did that for a number of years with Kingsway, and then we decided to jump ship and five of us and started Stonegate Homes. Yeah,
Okay.
that was a lot of fun there too. So yeah, there was some interesting times. Well, like I said, I wouldn't trade any of it in for anything because it was a lot of fun.
So you went from builder, what got you into thinking like I want to be a home inspector? Or is there
Well, just
something in between?
there wasn't any much in between going on as far as new construction at that point. So the market was pretty bad at that time for new construction, and I decided that what can I do with all the talents I have available to me? What would make it all kind of come together? And home inspections was the fit. And I didn't realize at the time, that it was gonna. I really hadn't done anything. I would do something for 5 years and then would move to something else. Well, when home inspections came around, now it's been 23 years, so it's the longest I've ever done anything in the end. So I really enjoyed it. I really still enjoy it because I love seeing a lot of different houses. I like talking to people. I like helping people with their questions and helping them to learn about the houses. So it all became a natural fit in the end, and so it worked out really well in the end. You know?
Take us through that that process of a home inspection, because there's always two psyches I see on it. One being on the seller side and how it's received, one being on the buyer side and how beneficial it is, especially for first time home buyers. But people might not know what an inspection all entails. It's so vague in the word, but it's so detailed at the same time. So take us
Well,
through just like what a general inspection is.
let's kind of start off with state rules and regulations because I think those are important to touch on here, because we are regulated by the state, Wisconsin, and we actually have to be nationally certified as well. Okay, so but the deal is with the state is the rules and regulations are very lenient. They say things, like you got to check a representative number of windows in the house, you got to check a representative number of electrical outlets and all this stuff. But they really don't say how many that is. So it's up to the discretion of every home inspector to decide what they're going to do. So when I started out the company, I thought, you know what, I'm going to provide the most thorough inspection I can do because you're paying me, a fair amount of money to do an inspection. So I want to be able to do as much as I can. So I always say to people, if I have access to a window, I have access to an outlet, I have access to something, I'm going to touch it. I'm going to put my tester in. I'm going to operate the window, or I'm going to operate the door. I'm going to flush the toilet. I'm going to run the sink. I'm going to all do all that stuff so I've always used that philosophy on my inspection, and it's worked out well. I like being thorough. Um, and I think it's really helped out for especially the buyer. Now, from the realtor end of it, and I know this is a tough. I've really put more. I really don't put a lot of emphasis, Matt, not to.
Give it to us, brother. Come on now. Keep
Fair
it
enough.
straight.
I
Yeah,
really
keep
don't
it
care
straight.
I really don't care what the realtor thinks.
That's good.
You shouldn't.
I'm there for the buyer. I'm not there for the realtor. So when I get these realtors, and they're all over, fortunately, there's not a lot of them, that'll try and steer you, and say things like, "Oh, that's not that bad. We can take care of that." And I'm thinking, that's bad. I think it's a little bit more than the realtor's thinking. But I tend to stay away from them and just do my thing. And again, I want to present the information to the buyer in layman's terms, number one, because I'm not there to sound like a rocket scientist and use all technical terms on them, because that's not fair to anybody. And if that's just trying to make the inspector look good, that doesn't help anybody out. I want to be able to communicate the issues with regular terms that people understand. And I've always used that philosophy, and it's always worked out well. So yeah, so that's basically how I do it. And then the other thing that I always want to do my turnaround, my report same day. That's been my goal since day one. I think that's important. I don't want to be holding up the process, and I shouldn't have to. If I can do my time correctly and properly, I should be able to do an inspection, turn on a report, and move on to the next inspection. And that's always been successful, I think, for us. So, but basically, yeah, touching everything on the house, I think, is important. Um, and using software. I use Home Gauge software, which actually walks me through the house the same way every time. So consistency. It helps if you skip around, jump around on an inspection, you're going to miss stuff. You're going to forget I forgot to go look at the attic because I moved on to something else before I was supposed to look at the attic. So I try and stay within the program that I'm using, and make sure I'm following it to make sure that I don't miss anything.
I love that. Side note, we're actually in the process of creating our own home inspection company.
Oh yeah.
Yep. So I'm actually going through the course as well, and holy shit, is that thing extensive. Man, when I tell you, like you said, represented number, right? Represented number of windows and
Yeah.
outlets in the room and all this stuff. Just the extensive knowledge. I told my people, I said, look, man, I'm a better broker already just because I took the course. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? I didn't pass the national test yet, but I'm going to be taking that soon. But man, that test is hard as shit.
Yeah. You
Um,
wait. You wait.
it is hard. And that,
Well, I don't know if you know, my son Luke works with me too, more on a part-time basis now, but he took the test 5 times, the national test.
was tough.
And I told him, I'll pay for it every time as long as you keep trying, you keep going for it, you keep studying for it. But I was thankful. If you passed it the first time, that wouldn't have been as beneficial. I think because he had to keep studying, keep trying, keep working at it, and he got so close. He got so close to that 80%. He hit like 79% on one, and all this other stuff. So I think that taking it 5 times really made a huge benefit to him being a successful inspector.
I mean, it's like you said, I love that you say you represent the buyer, aka the client, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And I hear this all the time, even because I list homes and I represent buyers and I also represent investors. And I tell people, like, especially with the whole COVID year where everybody's waiving their inspections,
yeah,
I said we are not going to follow suit to that. I
yeah,
said I have a fiduciary responsibility to you, and you could waive it, but we're still going to have a home inspection. Just say that you won't, report anything that costs 10,000 to fix or whatever, right?
Right, right,
But at least have the damn inspection.
right.
That protects everyone involved, the buyer, even the seller. I tell the sellers, if someone has a home inspection, that actually benefits you because
Yeah,
yes, they know what's condition of the home fully. There's
right,
documentation saying that, so they cannot sue you for something that
right.
they are acknowledging.
Because they had knowledge of before they closed on the
Yeah.
house. They had knowledge of. You can't deny that.
Material adverse facts.
Yeah,
It protects everybody.
yeah, I
Exactly.
heard.
And there's a paper trail, right? Like
Yeah,
that's the biggest thing. This is not a handshake. You're signing a agreement with the home inspector. Home inspector is doing his thing. There's a report. The report, if they are notice of defects coming, then there's a notice of defects
right.
coming, right? Like there's so much things happening, and I'm like, dude, these for sale by owners, the reason they get sued so much is because they think they watch one YouTube video and
Yeah,
they're the expert. Like,
yeah,
oh, I just put a sign on my yard.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm like, okay, all right, your ass gonna be in court after 3 months after you sell that damn house. Your ass gonna be in court,
In fact,
and it happens.
yeah, in fact, I just had a conversation with another realtor that had um, he had two offices. I'm not gonna say who it is,
Yeah,
but he closed one of the offices because of the way the market's going. He took out a separate insurance policy, he said, because of all the deals that his people wrote that didn't have inspections on them to protect himself. In case
Wow.
anything came back to haunt him from those deals that his people wrote. I found that interesting. It wasn't cheap to do that, but I found it interesting how he was protecting himself from all the times that his people wrote offers with no inspections on them because he was worried someone was going to come back.
and it's so true. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm a broker owner, so insurance, yeah, it is not
yeah,
nothing to play with, right? And all
yeah.
type of business insurance. And there's a reason it's only me and my business partner right now and our full-time admin.
Mhm.
We don't hire no new agents. We're not like if Matt told me tomorrow, hey, I want to join your firm, okay, no brainer, because he knows what he's doing.
Right.
Now, he knows what he's doing not just from the side of making money. He knows what he's doing from the side of doing the right thing for his clients.
Exactly right.
You do the right thing, you don't have to worry about nothing. It's only when there's that gray area.
Right.
And then it's like, is this worth it? Like we had a client today, literally today, multiple properties, and wants to sell some this way, wants to sell some this way, and then we could probably do this one this way if you guys
Yeah.
don't get what I'm getting at. And I said, we're not doing that shit. I said, I do not give a damn. We write one offer. This is the number. If you don't like it, go somewhere else and try it. I said, we ain't doing this little, oh, here type stuff because when I'm in court, then I gotta explain all the
That's
here.
right.
And I ain't doing that. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? The court makes me nervous. I don't
Yeah.
like
It
going
makes
in there.
everybody nervous.
Exactly. So
I buy insurance. I don't want to use it. That's what I tell people. I don't want to have to use it. So I don't try and I don't do things in areas. I'm a gray areas. I don't do things in gray areas. I do the same thing the same way every time to make sure I'm consistent and I'm thorough. And I want to make sure that I'm covering everything the state wants me to cover, and I actually do more than what the state requires anyhow. So
I love that. So like, let's, we're talking about the benefits, right, to the buyer, right? We just gave a couple examples of how a home inspection protects the buyer, the client, and even examples how it protects the seller, right?
mhm.
So let me ask you this though. What would you tell someone that wants to become a home inspector? Let's right? Because I mean, seriously, I mean, with all due
I mean,
respect,
hey, it's a fabulous job. I mean, I've loved it for the whole time I've been doing it. So, I would say just make sure you're following what the state wants you to follow and the national rules too. If you want, you can go, be InterNACHI, you can be WAHI, all those organizations, national organization which are helpful because you can go to meetings and learn and things like that, which are very helpful. They bring in, foundation guys and roofing guys and HVAC guys where you can learn more stuff. Learning is the key. Keep learning, keep expanding your knowledge base so you can be more informative when you talk to people out there. But just, get yourself, if you're going to be a home inspector, make sure you follow the rules and you get yourself set up with a good program that you use and be consistent with it. And that'll keep you looking at the, like I said, the house the same way every time. I think when home inspectors get into trouble is when a buyer's yanking them all over the place. Oh, I want to show you this over here. I want to show you that over there. I want to talk about this. I want a question over here. And I always say, okay, hold on. You got a question in the basement? I'm not there yet, but we'll get there. Save that thought, because when we get down there, we'll address that question. I don't want them dragging me. I'm in the kitchen right now. I don't want to be dragged down in the basement. You know, even if they say, well, unless they're saying, oh, I got to leave right away and I can't stay for the inspection, then I'll go and do it. But other than that, I just say, well, let me finish. I always say to people, I always joke with them, you're getting ahead of me now. You know what? You're getting ahead of me. I says, you can't rush me now.
Can't rush greatness, baby.
Can't rush me now. You got to let me do my thing. Don't rush me. I always say, but it was the term I always said. I would say, don't rush me. I can't remember what I used to say. It was years ago I used to say it. I can't think of it now. Whatever. But anyhow,
It'll come to you.
you know, but yeah, but just I think that's the way to be. Is just stay doing what you want to do, and you can, the state and those national those are basic guidelines to run from. You can do those, or you can expand on top of those if you want to go further. But the more you expand on those, and the more further you go, the more liability you open yourself up for. So you got to be careful with that too. So there's times you got to say, I'm not setting up ladder today. That's raining outside, or and we don't have to set up ladders if you're doing your stuff. If you're learning about home inspections, we're not required to set up ladders.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm an old roofer. I want, if I can set up a ladder and look at that roof, I will do it. But but if there's bad weather out, I certainly don't want to fall off a ladder and break my neck or my hip or whatever. It doesn't make any sense. Then I'm out of business. So you got to kind of balance that, what you can do safely and what you can't do safely. And I think for the most part, people understand that, as long as you explain it right. That it's snowing outside. I can't get on a ladder and slip off and fall, and people understand that. I mean, I've had one time where a realtor wanted me to go up on a roof when it was a snowstorm outside on a 2-story roof. I handed the buyer her money back and walked out and said, I'm not doing any of that. I said, you people are asking for stuff that's way outside of what I should be doing. And I'm not going to jeopardize myself or my company for something that you guys want me to do that's unrealistic. So you have to have those lines too, but most people understand. Most people understand though.
Within those lines, Al, because especially for a first-time home buyer, they're going to have a ton of questions when the report comes back. They're probably going to want to ask for advice. What is the correct way to go about helping someone on that and be within the lines of where you're supposed to stay within, as far as liability is concerned?
First of all, I've been very fortunate with the way I do reports and that kind of stuff. I get very little questions after the report is done. I mean, I hardly get any. It's very rare that I get questions after the report, because I try to put everything in there. You know what I mean? That I'm doing. And I mean, we're not only we're describing everything we're looking at. Number one, it's asphalt based shingles, it's metal gutters, metal downspouts or plastic downspouts. You have to put all those descriptions in there, but then also on top of that, you have to put in if there's any issues, and of course I take pictures, which we don't have to do either, but I take pictures of everything after that and then put a description under what the issue is. But so if I do I always say when I'm done with the inspection, I always say, please put your questions back to me in email. I want the questions on paper, because if I'm changing anything on the report when their question comes in, I want to make that part of the report now. So it becomes the official record. I spoke with them and I put it in their file. I did an email, and I always make sure I CC the realtor on everything that we talk about. And that's what I always tell the buyer too. You send me an email, make sure you include the realtor on that email, so he or she's in the loop when we're doing conversations back and forth through email. So and some people will fight me on that. I've had the other day where a guy says, "Oh, just give me a call," and I'm like, I really need you to put it in an email, because I need to keep it with the original report and anything we discuss. So he ended up doing that in the end, but sometimes people push back, but that's kind of how you have to deal with it. You got to make sure to keep yourself out of court. You don't do a lot of things over the phone, or if you're doing texting, you better make sure you're you're taking screenshots of those texts and keep them with the report. So to keep yourself, out of court. So
I
And
mean,
it's
that,
not to say that you're an open book. I mean, you're going to help people. You're going to give them the answers that they want. You're going to point
right,
them in the direction of the resources they want. But people do
yeah,
have to understand with an inspection, this is a regulated industry, just
right,
like being a realtor is.
right.
They need to understand how you can be helped, and without stepping over those bounds that you're regulated within.
I can't go too far. Because um, if they're asking me questions about, I'm a licensed real estate broker as well. I don't know if you knew that as well.
I knew
Uh,
that.
oh,
but
that's what's up.
I have to stay in my box when I'm doing home inspections. So I'll say to people, "Oh, you're asking a question you need to ask the realtor about." They'll say, "Well, how much is, or on, what would be a good one? What do you think? Oh, should I go back to the seller and ask for money back for that roof?" And I'm like, I'm a home inspector today. I don't know how you wrote your contract. I don't know if you gave, a right to cure, no right to cure, or if you're doing a $5,000, whatever. I don't know any of the details. I don't want to know any of the details. You need to go back to Matt and ask Matt how you want to address this. You
Hmm.
guys got to figure it out. I can't help you in that area. So you got to, and most part people take that. They don't, I don't think I've ever had anybody yell at me about it and say, "Oh, you're just not helping me out." But no, I have to stay in a home inspector box. I'm not the realtor. I mean, my job is to give you the report, give you my thoughts on what the defects are and what maintenance issues are and all this other stuff. And you guys got to decide what you want to do from this point on. If you don't want to buy the house, that's something you need to talk to Matt about. If you want to get money back, that's something you need to talk to Matt about. If you going back to the seller to fix anything, you need to talk about Matt. Matt, he's going to help you out through all that. He's going to help you through all the paperwork and all that stuff. So that's it. So that's how I
I,
handle
I love that. I think this is a great educational piece for buyers,
it. Mhm.
for agents, mom and dad, because obviously a lot of parents come to these home inspections and all that stuff too. I always tell people like when you're in our industry, home inspector or an agent, you have to also, I hate to say this, but I'm gonna be very blunt about this. You actually have to be the calmest person in the room, and you have to also sometimes have to direct people, remind them like, hey,
Yeah,
you're out of line. Or
yeah,
like you said, like when I'm in home inspections too with my people and they're trying to pull them the home inspector, say, hey, there's a procedure here. You have
yeah,
to follow that. That's the expert. You're not the expert. Oh,
right.
I used to build houses. I do not care. Right now, he's the home inspector and he's doing it the way he's supposed to do it. If you have questions, when we get there, we'll get there. And I
I,
can't tell you. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I've been very successful with people bringing their dads and their brothers and sisters that are in the industry. I get them helping me inspect. "Oh, what do you think about that?" I'll say to them, "Hey, their dad, he's looking at something. What are you looking at? What do you think about that?" All of a
Mm,
sudden I turn them around. Now they're helping me. So I didn't exclude them from the inspection. I pulled them in and said,
there
"Okay,
you
help me
go.
out." And it turns the whole thing around. Also, now they're trusting me. Before it was you could feel it when they got there, first of all. They're thinking, "Oh, this guy doesn't know anything, He's 70 years old and I'm 55 or where the hell I'm." And he's thinking, "Oh, this young guy doesn't know anything, right?" Finally, I turn around and say to the guy, "Hey, come on, we're gonna go look at this over here. Come on with me." And he'll say, "Oh, I have a question." "Well, okay, what's your question? Let's go look at it." And so this kind of stuff. But I drag him in.
That's so smart.
I get their trust. And all of a sudden they're like, they back off, and all of a sudden they're like, "Okay, this guy knows what he's doing."
I mean, but you have to be also direct too because
What?
it comes back on us. It doesn't come back on them, right? It's our reputation, it's
Right?
our potential, license that's going to get impacted. And long story short, it's the livelihood of the client, right? We all have a fiduciary,
Right.
right? Responsibility. Um, man, so
Sense of humor.
you
I
got
gotta
to have a
say
sense
that.
of humor.
Yeah.
You have to have a
Yeah.
sense of
Humility
humor
is key.
in this business I think if you're going to be a home inspector, you have to have a sense of humor and be able to joke with people and feel confident that you can have fun with people and not be worried about it. So I think that because if you start joking with people, it gets them to back down. Takes that edge off. Everybody's nervous. And I'll even say to people when they come, "I know we're all nervous now because we're going to do the home inspection. Everybody's kind of, anxiety's going now because we're all worried about what I'm going to find." I'll just say, "Well, let's just go through it and see what happens." I said, a lot of times we go through this and we don't find a lot of stuff, and sometimes we go through it and we find some bigger things. But that's what we're here for. That's what we're here to find out. So let's do it. Let's see what's going to happen. So you got to kind of, make them feel a little bit comfortable. This is not something it needs to be strenuous. It should be. I try to make it fun. personally. I try to make the home inspection fun.
That's awesome. I love that.
Now, the other thing I think that maybe if I could critique myself, when I get on an inspection, I get very focused on it. So, I mean, I'll start out talking with the people and doing these things, and Matt probably realizes this too, because he's been on so many inspections with me, and I'll talk to him. But then when I get into my mode and I'm doing my inspection, I'm kind of going, you know what I mean? And I'm not focused on talking with the buyer anymore, because Matt, typically the realtor jumps in and starts talking with them, and they'll start talking about different things, and Al's off doing his thing, and which is very helpful from a standpoint of getting the inspection done in a timely manner, where the realtor helps. But I think sometimes I see myself, I say, oh, I should really touch base with them again. I haven't talked to them for 15 minutes. I've been over here and I've done all this, and I should walk back in there and say, something, because I've been off just focusing on my inspection. So if I had to say, if I had to do a better job, I would say I would probably work on that area of just making sure I touch base a little bit more during the inspection with them, instead of just going off and doing my thing and not coming back.
I mean, that's not a bad thing either, though,
I
right?
know, I know. But
That's definitely not I mean, especially because,
it does help when the realtor's there and they start talking to them and they start talking about their financing, and they got all their stuff lined up, and if they're doing this and doing that, and I can go do my thing. That is very helpful, because I can focus on what I need to do and I can get it done in a timely manner. So I appreciate that, man.
yeah.
You're welcome. I'd say, I mean, I've had a lot of inspections with Al, and both with buyers, both with properties that I've purchased. There's been some that I haven't been there, just because with the relationship I have, I know I'm going to get a report from Al, and it's going to feel like I was there.
Yeah.
All the photos, the arrows that point to this, that, and the other, the defects that are listed out. You do a very good job, Al, and that's why I've worked with you for all these years.
I appreciate that. So that's another thing that we should probably talk about, since you're talking about doing home inspections. When do you decide to defect? This is the thing that, when this first came out, a year or two ago, when they said, oh, home inspectors are going to now say this is a defect, or you have to monitor this item, or this item needs maintenance. I was all against that, because I didn't want no part of that. But I think after I did it a month or two, I really love it now. I have to make a decision. Is that a defect, or is it not a defect? And I think it's helped me made me a better inspector, because I have to make that decision. So you as an inspector have to decide what is going to be a defect for you and what is not, because the lines aren't, I mean, it's not quite clear exactly what is and what isn't a defect on a property. So there is some gray area there. What do you think about that, Matt, as far as from a realtor standpoint?
Well, I was going to cheat and ask you what's your formula for deciding what is and what isn't, but
All right,
mean,
again, back to that health and safety is an easy one, right?
yeah.
Or if it's going to affect the structure, if I think it could affect the structure in the future, or if it's going to cost a lot of money. I guess that's how I vision the three different areas. If it's a safety issue, if it's a future that could hurt the property more, or if it's a money issue that's going to cost the buyer a lot of money. I think that's the three areas I kind of put it into. So, you got to decide. You look at a roof and you say, okay, the roof's not falling apart. It's an older roof, but now I got to decide, is it a defect, or is it just an older roof that it's probably going to need to be replaced in 5 years from now? And I got to make that call. Obviously, I kind of look at, is the roof, is there shingles missing? If there's shingles missing, okay, that's an issue right there. Is there a lot of granular material missing off the roof? There's a lot of granular material missing off the roof, then it's at the end of its life. Okay, we got to just be honest with that. If it has some moderate granular deterioration, it's probably got, I'll probably tag it out as an older roof that's only got a few years left on it, and it'll need a replacement. I won't tag it as a defect, but I'll put it as a item that needs to be monitored now. So it's kind of how you gotta pick and choose those things, and home inspectors got to do that now. So that's kind of how I look at it. Obviously, safety things are easy. Wiring, anything electrical is easy defect. I just put that out there. And unless we're recommending GFIs in a kitchen or bathroom, well, that's a recommendation. That's not a defect, because the house was built the way it is. All right. Not, doesn't have to be brought up to code. Nothing, there's no forcing anybody to do anything. But if they, I just put in a report as a recommendation to if they want to make it safer for themselves and their family, they could add GFCIs in the kitchen and bathrooms and so on. But any kind of electrical issues, always plumbing. I usually pull those out as defects too. Any leaks, loose toilet, because that once a loose toilet's loose, it could leak, it could wreck the structure. I get into even you know, faucets dripping. You know, they shouldn't be dripping. That's not the way the faucet's designed. It should be shut. Is it a defect? Probably not, but it is costing them money through the water bills and that kind of stuff. So you got to kind of play that one. Foundations are pretty much easy, you know, if they're pushed in and that kind of stuff, that's pretty much.
Always the scariest thing with the buyer is foundation.
Well,
So
as
it can be
I
complex.
start to explain to people, two most expensive things in the house is roof and foundation, right? I always tell my
Yeah.
buyers. So if we can get past those two, that's what I say to them. If we can get past those two, now we're dealing with the other stuff. Okay, so we got some electrical issues, but those can be fixed. We're not talking, you know, $5,000 typically, unless we're talking about a service change or something. But if we're just talking about outlets not wired correctly, or covers missing off of boxes, or outlet covers missing, or this kind of nonsense, okay, that's relatively inexpensive. Still call it a defect, but it's not. I don't think it's gonna. From my standpoint, I'm not saying this, but I'm thinking it shouldn't break the deal, right? If the realtor's good,
Right.
you'll be able to get past that one easily. But it's the roofs and the foundations. If the roof's bad, now we're talking probably a tear off, and we're talking thousands of dollars. We get to the foundation, we know that it's pushed in. We get to thousands of dollars of vertical steel beams or whatever. So as I do first time home buyer seminars, and that's kind of what I put out there too. When I talk to them, I say, hey, if you get past the roof and foundation, the rest of the stuff should be, you know, if you have a good realtor, you should be able to work through that. Get the seller to pay for it or give you a credit or whatever you guys decide to do.
Yeah.
But, you know, work through that stuff. Not that I discard anything. I put it all in the report, but, you know, try and get them to think about bigger ticket items are more important than, and I know if the list gets long, that's a whole different animal. You know, if the list gets into 20 different things on the report, that's when people get, you know, start to panic. And I understand, you know, they're looking at it going, wow, that's a lot of stuff. Well, that's going to be a little bit of a hill for the realtor to climb, but not impossible. But, you know, I try and keep them in the real world of saying, if we got past the roof and the foundation, the expensive things, the other stuff you should be able to work out, you know, whatever. At least in my mind, that's what I'm thinking. So that's kind
I
of,
agree. I agree. I mean, I think that's the difference between a seasoned agent and a new agent
yeah.
is that, you know, seeing those things, looking at the cost. So if I'm seeing a neighborhood that's like, wow, we got 20% appreciation year after year, like, and you got $4,000 worth of repairs, yeah,
Yeah.
right. We move forward on that.
Yeah.
Now, you know, obviously looking at the bigger picture of stuff, obviously them being happy in there, right? If this is school they want to be in, if
Yep.
they're close to family and friends, right? So you just look at the whole scope, like, okay, what is this worth?
Yeah.
Yeah, you know what I mean? And I think that's how the difference between someone seeing a report and like, oh my, you know, and get all
Yep.
computery versus like, okay, hey, is this something that we're gonna fix in the first year? Is this something we're gonna fix in the first 3 years or 5 years? Because a home is obviously not an investment that you do overnight, right? It's an investment, long-term investment, typically 5 to 7 years. That's what people typically move in Wisconsin. So I always, when I get those big reports, I'm like, okay, all right, this sucks, this sucks. Oh, this is old. Old is not a defect,
Hmm.
right? And I think
Right.
that's one of the
Right.
biggest things. People think old is a defect. I know some damn boilers way past their prime that are still better than some new
Right. Right.
AC unit, I mean HVAC units. So it's like,
So when I talk about that, I'll say that when I do my first time home buyer seminars, I'll say, hey, if you see older stuff in the house, older furnace, older water heater and stuff like that, you know, if you have a really good realtor, they might be able to wrap in some kind of home warranty that the seller can pay for. So in case those units go down, that you're not on the hook for the full cost. So it's kind of how I approach that with older stuff. Because yeah, you're right. Older boilers tend to last forever. It's the newer stuff that's obsolescence, you know, when they
Yeah.
build it to go fall down. But yeah, so you know,
Same with water heaters too. I mean,
yeah,
you get something that's a 2002 or older, they are made way better than anything produced after that.
you know, at one time I had a 35-year-old water heater in my house.
oh
And I
man.
just replaced it because I knew it was you know, it was the most inefficient thing in my house now. You know what I mean? It wasn't, it was still running, but it just, I decided to replace it because it was inefficient. But, you know, but yeah, the
And
older
that's
stuff lasts longer.
And that's what you gotta, that's what people, I try to tell people this all the time. It's like, hey, I get it, right? It's nice, shiny. It's not brand new.
Yep.
And I'll be honest, there were some new construction homes that I walked through with some of my clients, and thank God we went in there before the drywall was,
Yeah.
up, and you just see a whole bunch of Home Depot boards, like the 2x4s like this. I said, you're gonna have some problems with this house. I'm telling you that right
Yeah.
now. I said, we need to address this now.
Yeah.
Um, and we had to, it was such a big fight, but then the builder came out and he was like, yeah, we apologize. Like this is not our quality and blah blah blah. When I tell you those things was, I said, is this somebody's teeth? Because this
Yeah.
thing was like crooked. I
Yeah. What did
said,
they buy those off the scrap heap or something? You know, those
man,
boards?
all I can say is this. I'm not gonna name
It
the
was on
builder
the, it was on
anybody.
it was on the clearance rack.
Man, or they got a pick and save because I said, man, look, and this was in Franklin. We're talking about a six, seven hundred
Yeah.
thousand build. This is not a cheap build. So it's like the at the bare minimum, those damn support,
Yeah.
2x4s better be straight,
Yep.
But yeah, man, this is definitely, I think a gem that a lot of our clients, all three of our clients, right? Because we're gonna put this out on social media,
Mhm.
share it to our database. I think this is something that people really need to listen to and pay attention more to. Matt, I think we got to do a part two of this. I think we get a whole bunch of other home inspectors seriously if you're up for it, brother, and
Yeah.
just bounce ideas because as this new year, like me and my team are getting us ready for it, and I don't know how you guys feel about it, but I feel like we're gonna have a very hot spring.
It'll be
Like,
interesting.
yeah, it seems like we're heading to that direction, which means that if it gets very hot, we all know what buyers typically want to do to make their offer stronger is they think wave, wave,
Yep. Yep.
wave, right? And it's like, dude, I beat people that waive their home inspections.
Yeah.
It's just how you write it and what relationship you have with the other party, right? If you're someone that has a high, like if I get a offer from Matt, not to show favoritism or anything like that, and I get another offer from an agent that's known to have errors in all their paperwork, knows to be lazy, I can say, hey, this one doesn't have a home inspection, but this one does. But this one is, you don't have to worry about anything under 10 grand.
Right.
Do you think anything in this house is gonna be 10 grand? Oh no, I don't, everything's new, blah blah. Okay, then
Right.
then it's basically like you protect yourself more going this route than you do
Right.
if you just go with that route where this person is known to have errors. We
Yeah.
don't know about the buyer. Did he even qualify the buyer properly?
Right.
I mean, let's be honest. How many fake pre-approvals are out there? There are so many fake buyers
Yeah,
out
it's
in this
pretty easy to
market.
make one up nowadays.
Yeah.
It, Go online and you can get a pre-approval like that without even showing bank statements.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, it puts our clients, the sellers, in a pickle. And then it's like you're in that tug of war, and you have all these people going through the house. And obviously, as you guys know, sometimes some of these buyers they like to poke on the drywall,
Mhm.
right? They like to touch buttons in the service box. I'm like, dude, like I had a buyer literally try to put his hand in. I said, bro, don't put your hand in the electrical panel. I said, because if you die, my E&O, I ain't trying to cover that. Okay, right now.
I when I do an electrical panel, I pull the cover off. I won't step away from it. I'll stay in front of it because I've had people reach over my shoulder, or try. What is that? He's putting his. Get that finger out of there. What are you doing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're gonna get electrocuted. So I scold people sometimes. It's usually the father, the so now what's that? And I'm like, get your hand out of there, man. I'm not gonna be sitting there
Let
with
me tell you.
It's gonna be you. It's gonna
Ask
be
me
you.
what it is. Don't point in there. Don't stick your finger in there. Just ask me what it is. So, and the other thing I
Awesome.
want to bring up real quick too, because I do tend to say this to my first-time home buyers too. Home inspection is not a perfect science. It is a snapshot in time. I'm only there for 2.5 hours looking at this house. I'm not living in it for a month. So yes, there might be things that are not going to be seen, especially when there's furniture in the house. All this stuff, I'm not gonna, I may not, I'm not perfect, but so we're only there for this little short period of time. So I have to be realistic about what we're looking at too. So, I
That's a
try and
great
put that
point.
across the first time home buyers to make sure they understand. Uh, obviously the more time I can spend there, the more things I'm going to find. And that would be if I spent a month in there, I'd find a ton of stuff, but that's not going to happen. So they have to be realistic on that end too. And I try and teach my first time home buyers that, you guys got to be, somewhat realistic on this. It's a snapshot in time we're looking at. That's it. So
It's a small snapshot,
it is small.
a very small snapshot. I mean,
There's things to prioritize, things to pick out. I think you guys both touched on,
Yeah.
defects, how you condition them, how you look at them. I mean,
Yeah.
I look at things from the health, safety, water intrusion, and focus on structure.
Yeah.
And go from there. But anybody should be able to work and talk about things and price them out and figure out what the priorities are. And at the end of the day, if the deal doesn't work, the good thing about the inspection clause is that the buyer can send a notice of defects. They can get out of the deal and we can go find them. And that's just part of the business. And we keep looking until we find that right home. And there's nothing wrong with that. And people shouldn't feel bad or wrong about having to do that because that's what the home inspection's for. It's to point those things out and to make you feel safe about the home that you're about to make a really lifetime changing purchase on.
I have another realtor friend of mine I worked with for years, and he always joked with me. He says, "You're the deal killer." I said, "If that's what it is, then I accept my responsibility graciously." I said,
You know what my answer to that would be? Sometimes the best deal you make is the one you didn't do.
You know what? And I gotta say that, and that's good. I gotta tell you this though. There are times where I wish I could sit there and actually say to the buyer, "Don't buy this house," because I just look at it and go, "My God, this is a piece of junk." But I can't say that. And then I'll see them on they won't buy it and they get me back for another inspection. That I can say that. I can go, "Hey, thank God you didn't buy that other house." I'll say, "My God," and they'll normally come back and say to me, "Yeah, well, we were looking at that. We found this one and it's $3,000 more and it's way better than that one is." Well, yeah, that's what the home inspection did. I wish I could say right to your face that you shouldn't buy this place, but I can't do that according to the rules and regulations. But, I'm happy when they move on to something else and the realtor actually helps them out and find something better. And then I can actually say to them, "I'm glad you didn't buy that other house because it was a mess,"
that's called protection right there. That's,
Yeah,
I
you
mean,
bet.
protection at the
Case in point.
yeah. So, man, any last closing words, brother?
Me or him?
For you,
Me?
you're the big dog here. You're the star of the show.
Housebroken podcast. Let's go.
Yeah, so
I'm all set, man.
give us your closing statement.
I'm all set, guys. Hey, I thank you for having me on, and I'm glad that you're doing this. I think the more you talk, you're going through the home inspection stuff, so this is great information for you. You're starting out on that path, so I think this will kind of give you some thoughts how you're going to proceed forward, what kind of software you're going to use, and how you're going to run your business. And yeah, it's great to hear from people like me that've been doing it for so long. And our perspective on how to keep yourself safe out there, as far as and how to keep yourself safe and how to keep making sure you're doing your best for your client you can at the same time.
That's awesome, man. Love it. Matt, any closing words, brother?
Well, I just thanks again, Al, for taking the time out tonight to go through this with us and give your perspective on the inspection. It is, as I said before, a very vague word, but detailed, all in the same. So it's an important process of the deal that we wanted to highlight, and I think you did a wonderful job. Thanks again.
You're welcome. Thank you, guys. And if you want to do a round two, just let me know.
I think we
Round
might
two
have
is
to. I still
coming.
have a few questions, so we might have to have a panel after this one.
I like that.
All
I like
right.
that.
All right.
And margaritas. Don't forget the
I was gonna say,
margaritas on
this is
it.
gonna happen maybe at a bar or something.
Yeah, home
There you go.
inspection and margaritas. Come on
Yep,
down.
live broadcast from Jimmy Buffettville.
That's it. I love it. All right, guys.
All right,
Well,
guys.
hope you guys have a great night, and I appreciate you guys.
We'll see ya.
See ya.
There you
Bye
go.
now.